Hi, my name's Grant Reynolds. I'm the lead firearms instructor for Solutions Group International. Before we get started today, I want to go over the 4 cardinal safety rules when handling any type of gun. Number 1, treat all weapons as if they're loaded. Number 2, never point the gun at anything you are not willing to destroy. Number 3, keep your finger off the trigger until you are ready to fire. And number 4, know your target and know what's beyond your target. And furthermore, know what's in between you and your target. Okay, let's get started with some fundamentals now. Now we have 7 of them. Now the first one is stance. Everything that we do from this point on is going to be built around that stance. That stance you want to have about shoulder width apart. You almost want to have your back leg just a little bit more pushed back. Now from this stance, I can get ready to get a good purchase on my pistol, okay? Now you'll notice my legs are slightly bent. Maybe about 60% of my weight is on the balls of my feet. And from this stance, I'm able to move quickly back and forth. That's my alert stance right there. That's what we're going to start building our foundation on. Okay, after I have my stance set up, what do you think I have to do next? I have to get a good grip. Now, on my pistol, you'll see I have a clear weapon there. I'm going to go ahead and physically and visually inspect that weapon to ensure that it's safe. There you are right there. Grip is very simple, I think, but it's also one of the more integral parts, because that grip, that first grip that you purchase, is what you're going to use as soon as you start shooting your pistol. Now, with the grip, I want to take my shooting hand and I want to come in as high as I can using the web of my fingers right here, the web of my hand right here. Now I want to come in as high as I can on that back strap. The back strap being here, this is the beaver tail. We're looking to get a high tang grip. I want to come in as high as I can, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap my remaining 3 fingers around that pistol, as you can see. And you'll notice how I've placed my trigger finger, I've indexed it on the upper part of that frame. That's what I'm going to do with my shooting hand. Now, conversely, with my non-shooting hand or my support hand, very simply, I'm just going to take that hand and I'm going to rotate it down about 30 degrees. And you'll notice by rotating it down how nice and simple it fits right into that spot. Now, the meaty portion of my hand right here, this is what I'm going to place on that pistol. Now, because I'm trying to control essentially a little explosion that's going on inside of the chamber here, I need to make sure there are no holes in my grip, okay? You'll notice how both of my thumbs are resting on the upper part of that frame. You'll notice my other 4 fingers have wrapped all around the pistol. Okay, you see that? You'll also notice there are no holes in my grip. So once again with grip, I'm going to come in with a high tang grip. I'm going to wrap those lower 3 fingers around, indexing my trigger finger on the frame. And you'll see I've put my thumb over on the opposite side. With my non-shooting hand, my support hand, I'm going to rotate it down about 30 degrees. I'm going to fill in those slots. I'm going to have the thumb, both the thumbs on the frame, and I'm going to wrap the remaining 4 fingers around the other side. That's a proper grip right there. Number 3 is sight alignment. Now, sight alignment is nothing more than the relationship between the front sight tip and the rear sight aperture right there. The front sight tip and the rear sight aperture. Now, what we're looking for, that relationship, here's my rear sights and here's my front sight. I am simply trying to place that front sight tip both vertically and horizontally right in the center of that rear sight aperture. Number 4 is very close in nature to sight alignment, but this is what we call sight picture. Now, because I have a human eye, I can only focus on one thing at a time. So now what I have to do, when I present my pistol, I have to find that sight alignment. And now I have to be able to focus my eye on the target, the sights, and now I have to figure out what it is I'm going to look at. Now, a lot of people don't believe me. A lot of new shooters don't believe me when I say all you want to focus on is that front sight tip. That's all we're worried about. Once we've gotten that sight alignment, that sight picture you should be looking for one thing, and that's that front sight tip. Your target will appear blurry. If your target is not blurry, you are not focusing on the right thing. So it's very important. When you get that sight alignment and you're looking for that sight picture, find the target and then bring your focus back to that front sight tip. And again, your target should appear blurry. You want to place that front sight tip on there. That's what you're looking for with sight picture. That's number 4. Number 5, breathing. Now, my expertise and my experience, I'm a long-range guy. I was a scout sniper in the United States Marine Corps. And breathing, as you can imagine, really comes into play. With pistol shooting, the same thing applies. The further back you are, the more breathing is really going to come into play. The closer you are, breathing isn't going to wreak that much havoc on you, but it does still come into play. I find myself telling people a lot, just breathe, because they'll forget to breathe. They'll present and they'll hold the breath. You can't hold your breath. As soon as you start holding your breath, you stop the flow of oxygen to your blood, and then lactic acid comes in and starts to cramp you up. You start to shake, and now you have to really start to muscle the pistol where you want it to be. After each one of those breaths, there's a natural respiratory pause. Now, realistically, if you can, and you can wait for that pause, that's when you want to squeeze the trigger. But we don't always get that in life. So my goal in telling you this is, don't forget to breathe. Just don't forget to breathe. And be cognizant of where you are in that respiratory cycle. Number 6 is trigger control, one of the more important fundamentals. Now, about 80 to 90% of your issues on your target are going to come from trigger control. Now, when we talk about trigger control, a lot of people will like to put their entire finger inside of that trigger well. You'll see how much of my finger is in there. When in all actuality, all I want to use is that pad right there where my fingerprint actually starts to curl over on my finger. If you take a look at your finger right now, you'll see what I'm talking about on that fingerprint. Now you'll see that first joint on your trigger finger there. We want to be working the trigger right here, not down here or in here, because that's really going to start affecting exactly where my rounds start impacting, because I'll be essentially milking that grip. So it should look something like this. You'll see where that trigger finger is. It almost looks like it's coming out of there, okay? Now I'm trying to get really close there for you so you can look at that. All right? Now you want to also be sure that your support hand is nowhere near that trigger finger, so it's interfering with that straight, slow, steady press to the rear, right through the center line of that pistol, right down through the center line of the pistol. Okay, so something else you want to be cognizant of too, a lot of these pistols nowadays have a nice reset. I want you to listen for the click. You're also going to feel it. Do I want to completely come off every time after I shoot? No, I want to slowly reset that trigger, and you'll hear that audible click. You're also going to feel it, and that way I've taken out all of the slack and I can continue putting rounds down range. Now finally, number 7, follow through. Finish. Follow through. That's our 7th fundamental. We want to follow through all of these fundamentals each and every time we take a shot. Everything from my nice athletic stance to that nice grip, having my nice support hand right there. We also want to continue keeping that sight alignment and sight picture. Do not forget to breathe. You have to breathe when you're shooting, because as soon as you stop breathing and delivering that oxygen to your body, that's when the lactic acid starts to come into play, and then you'll start to get the shakes and you'll really start to get off track and off focus. So don't forget to follow through. Those are our 7 fundamentals. Now the only difference between a good shooter and a bad shooter are polished and worked fundamentals.